Hello everyone, welcome to ITLS Academy. This is the continuation part of the biology of microorganism. In this particular lecture, we are going to continue our study on the yeast and molds. We are going to cover remaining organism of the yeast and mold in this particular lecture. First organism is Candida albicans. Candida albicans is an opportunistic fungal pathogen of human. Opportunistic pathogen, that is an infectious microorganism that is normally a commensal or does not harm its host but can cause disease when the host resistance is low. Although a normal part of our gastrointestinal flora, Candida albicans has the ability to colonize nearly every human tissue and organ, causing serious and invasive infections. This is not surprising as Candida albicans has the ability to survive in nearly every niche of mammalian host. Research into Candida albicans is important in its own right, particularly with regards to its ability to cause disease in humans. In addition, comparison with Saccharomyces cerevisiae can reveal important insights into evolutionary processes. Candida albicans is a normal resident of the human gastrointestinal tract. It is also the most common fungal pathogen of humans, causing both mucosal and systemic infections, particularly in immune compromised patients. Candida albicans grow in several different morphological forms, ranging from unicellular budding yeast to true hyphae with parallel side walls. Typically, Candida albicans live as harmless commensals in the gastrointestinal and genitourinary tract and are found in over 70% of the population. Here is the pathogenesis of the Candida albicans. First of all, transmission. Candida albicans is usually transmitted from mother to infant through childbirth and remains as part of normal human's microflora. The overgrowth of Candida albicans leads to symptoms of disease and it occurs when there are imbalances. For example, changes in the normal acidity of the vagina, Candida albicans infections very rarely spread through sexual intercourse. The typical reservoir for Candida albicans is in the normal human microflora and is not found in animal vectors. People to people acquired infections mostly happen in hospital settings where immunocompromised patients acquire a yeast from healthcare workers. Studies show about 40% incidence rate. Studies show about a 40% incident rate. Infectious dose, incubation and colonization. There is no exact known infectious dose of Candida albicans. This is mostly due to the fact that Candida albicans infections stem from the commensal population of Candida albicans in the human microflora. Candidiasis is caused by the abnormal growth in Candida albicans, which is usually due to an imbalance in the environment. Usually, this imbalance occurs in a woman's vagina. This infection less likely to occur for men. Several events can spark an imbalance. Here, pharmaceutical and clinical significances of Candida albicans. Candida albicans is a dimorphic organism which is a part of the normal body flora of the human. For the majority of normal healthy individuals, it will never cause any problems. However, in a number of settings, it can cause severe disruptions to lifestyle or even death. Post-operative infections arises typically where a patient has been in intensive care for weeks and has undergone several cycles of bacterial infections and high-dose antibacterial therapy. In excess of 50% of deep-seated Candida infections are lethal. Persons suffering from AIDS, transplant patients, and other immunocompromised individuals are at even greater risk. The azole family of antifungal compounds is frequently deployed, but several of these block the metabolism of cyclosporin and thereby increase immunosuppressivity. A possible alternative antifungal drug is amphotericin B, but this interacts with cyclosporin to give increased nephrotoxicity. In many apparently normal women, Candida albicans causes vaginal thrush. It would be reasonable to imagine that shell wall would be focused for attacking this organism. In reality, there have been studies of the biosynthesis of cell wall materials. The precise molecular organization within the cell wall is largely unknown. By using wheat germ agglutinin, it has been shown that chitin is concentrated in the cross walls between mother and daughter cells, but is also distributed throughout the whole of the cell wall. It has not been possible to examine the distribution of glucans using plant lectins because there is no known lectin which reacts specifically with glucans. In the yeast form, Candida albicans could be confused with Saccharomyces cerevisiae upon simple microscopic inspections. However, major differences exist which would soon become apparent even to one not familiar with yeast taxonomy. Candida albicans is diploid and has no sexual cycle. This means that classical genetic methods like those that described for Saccharomyces cerevisiae are not possible with this organism. Attempts to isolate mutants by the use of mutagenic agents are almost bound to fail because of the improbability of producing mutations in both copies of a given gene and nowhere else in the genome. The most recent development of molecular genetics are now being applied to Candida, but the reader should not conclude that this organism is understood to do anything like the extent of Saccharomyces cerevisiae. The isolation of Candida albicans genes homologous to those in Saccharomyces cerevisiae by means of complementation of Saccharomyces cerevisiae mutants has been particularly useful as have techniques such as URA blasting in which First, one copy of a given Candida gene is disrupted with the coding sequence of the URA3 gene, and then the second copy is treated likewise. This process can be applied sequentially to produce a strain with defined mutations in known genes. Alternative morphology of the Candida albicans. One spectacular difference between Saccharomyces cerevisiae and Candida albicans is the ability of the latter to switch to a hyphal pattern of proliferation. A variety of different factors and conditions have been described which can elicit this switch, include serum, neutral pH, certain temperature profiles. In germ tube formation, a protuberance develops from the cell and thereafter growth remains highly polarized. The shell, which forms the tip of developing germ tube, remains polarized throughout the cell cycle. It must be emphasized that this is hyphal growth where cell division is symmetric, but in contrast to pseudo-hyphal development where the next cell cycle is started synchronously. In this case, growth is asynchronous with the result that the apical cell becomes progressively longer. The hyphal form is considered to be specialized for foraging. Even if this is not the correct conclusion, it certainly conveys the ability to penetrate tissues. List the yeast from would seem to be more effective for dispersal, example through the blood serum. One of the justifications for studying morphological switching in Candida albicans is that this may reveal a unique target for the therapy or prophylaxis. Phenomena of phenotypic switching is a form of switching whereby colony morphologies vary dramatically. This may seem trivial to the pharmacist or physician, but the variability extends far beyond the mere appearance of the colonies. The opportunity to switch is only available to mother cells which are in the G1 phase of the cell cycle. Thus, it is quite easy to calculate that a single cell that was mating type A could give rise after two complete cell cycles to a colony that comprised two cells of mating type A and two of mating type A. Here is another organism, that is Cryptococcus neoformans. Cryptococcus neoformans is an encapsulated yeast and an obligate aerobe that can live in both plants and animals. Its telomorph is Phylloblastidilla neoforms, a filamentous fungus belonging to the class Tremalomycetes. It is often found in bird excrements. Cryptococcus neoformans is an encapsulated yeast which causes cryptococcosis, a subacute or chronic infection of the central nervous system. In extreme cases, tissue damage can also occur in the skin, bones, and internal organs. Cryptococcal cryptococcal meningitis is very frequent in AIDS patients. Despite this, it is not a newly discovered organism and its pathogenic capabilities have been known for many years. It does not form a pseudomycelium, neither does it develop hyphae. Surely, this yeast provides adequate proof that neither is necessary to be pathogenic to any warm-blooded animal. The yeast cells are almost spherical and in conditions of high osmolarity they produce a much reduced capsule such that the overall size is less than 5 micrometer in diameter. Sorry, this is the 5 nanometer in diameter. This renders them small enough to remain as dust in the atmosphere and be inhaled. The yeast is inhaled and carried to the alveoli of the lungs. When in the warm, moist alveoli, the yeast cells regenerate their thick capsules with the consequent release of the polysaccharides and glycoproteins into the host's bloodstream, both of which serve as virulence factors. The capsule products cause neutrophils to lose their surface L-selectin, which is required for leukocytes to attach to endothelial cells before moving from the blood system to the tissues. Since the leukocytes are not sent to the site of infection in the tissues, the yeast escapes. The immune system is further confused by yeast cell products in the bloodstream due to the induction of suppressor T lymphocytes which attenuate immune response. It is believed that the release of melanin from the yeast also helps it to evade the immune system. Melanin is thought to act as an antioxidant which thereby protects cryptococci from oxidative killing. With such an armory of virulence, the reader will appreciate why rapid identification of this organism is so important. Here comes our another very important organism, that is a Neurospora crassa. This is a very beneficial organism from the point of biological research. Neurospora crassa is the heterothallic filamentous fungus that has been used extensively in genetic and biochemical research. The genus Neurospora includes both heterothallic and homothallic members. Neurospora crassa is a filamentous pink mold. It becomes famous to scientists due to the work of Weidel and Tatum in the 1940s when they developed the one gene, one enzymes hypothesis. Neurospora was first developed into an experimental organism by Does in the late 1920s. Neurospora has served as a model eukaryotic organism for nearly a century. Here comes the life cycle of the Neurospora crassa. As we know, this is the most studied and most important organism at the point of biological research. So this becomes important to learn the life cycle of the Neurospora crassa. Here this is the figure shown to you. You can see the life cycle of the Neurospora crassa. Here this is the mycelium, and mycelium comes to protoperithecium, and this finally comes to Ascogenous hyphae. And Ascogenous hyphae, this is the dikaryotic cell, and after the karyogamy this forms diploid cell. Meiosis in diploid cells cause the perithecium to divide and burst the cells, and the release of ascus occurs. These ascus release ascospores in the environment. The figure illustrates both the asexual cycle via macroconidia and the sexual cycle. In the case of the latter, that is the sexual cycle, the diagram represents the interactions between a male of mating type A and a female of mating type A. Here the male type is capital A and the female is small a. The trichogyny grows towards the male. There is fusion, one male nucleus enters and pairs with the female nucleus. Rounds of synchronous nuclear divisions results in dikaryotic, that is containing two nuclei cells. Karyogamy produces a true diploid cell which immediately undergo meiosis and ascoporogenesis. Ascoporogenesis is the formation of ascospores. This is the process to form the ascospore. The cycle is completed by germination of the individual endospore to found fresh mycelia. Aerial hyphae from the heterokaryotic, that is containing many separate nuclei. Vegetative mycelium produce either macroconidia or microconidia. The macroconidia contain several nuclei and re-establish vegetative mycelium where they germinate. Each microconidium is uninucleate, that is, their role in the life cycle is to fuse with the trichogyny. Trichogyny are specialized hypha of opposite mating types. The trichogyny is carried on the protoperithecium, which, as its name suggests, is the precursor to the perithecium or fruiting body. Inside the perithecium, nuclear fusion takes place, followed by meiosis and further differentiation to produce an ascus containing 8 ascospores. When the ascospores germinate, they produce haploid mycelia which can form heterokaryons by means of hyperfusion with the mycelia of the opposite mating type. Here is the very important organism, that is Penicillium and Aspergillus. Penicillium is the very important and crucial step in the pharmaceutical microbiology. The scientifically informed layperson is aware that Penicillium species are associated with a number of beneficial products. These include the important antibiotic penicillin, originally from Plasmodium notatum, Penicillium notatum, but which soon come to be prepared from Penicillium chrysogenus because this species produces more, and the ripening of Stylon, Roquefort and Camembert cheese with strains of Penicillium roqueforti and Penicillium camemberti. Today's commercial penicillin producing strains are derived from an organism which was originally isolated from a rotting cantaloupe melon. This fact emphasizes the real ecological place of such molds, where, of course, decomposition of fruits and vegetables is an essential part of the recycling of materials in the biosphere. Life could not continue on our planet in the absence of a decomposer organism. A less desirable characteristic of many molds is the production of mycotoxins. One group of mycotoxins, the aflatoxins, which are derived from decakitids, are a particular cause for concern. Aflatoxin Bj is carcinogenic in animals and mammalians. Cell lines in tissue culture and linked to specific mutations in the human tumor suppressor gene p53, thus causing primary hepatocellular carcinoma. Hence, contamination by aflatoxins of food, feed, and medical, veterinary, pharmaceutical, and laboratory preparations has serious health and economic consequences. It appears that the various strains of penicillium used in cheese production do not produce any such toxins. Penicillium has no sexual cycle. The organism merely produces conidia, which are readily dispersed by slight draughts. Conidia are asexual produced spores. These are produced by the asexual reproduction. New growth can commence after landing on a suitable substrate. Direct infections by Penicillium species have been reported to various parts of the human body, including the cornea, ear, respiratory tract, urinary tract, and heart. These are the main organs of the human body which are infected by the infection of Penicillium species. For example, rubrum is current. For example, Penicillium notatum is a species which produce antibiotics. Epidermophyton, Microsporum, and Trichophyton. All three of these are dermatophytaceae, that is, filamentous fungi which can utilize keratin for their nutrition. These are the organisms which can utilize keratin, which is the important part of our nails and our skin. Keratin is the most abundant protein in our hairs and our nails. Keratin is the chief protein in skin, hairs, and nails. Hence, all of these organisms are responsible for superficial mycosis in mammals. It is often stated that dermatophytes are the only fungi to have evolved which rely upon infections for their own survival. The genus Microsporum contains several interesting species including Mycobacterium ordini, which in years gone by caused epidemics of ringworm in children but rarely in adults. Ringworm is a disease which mostly affects children but it rarely affects adults. The appearance of a tinea or ringworm is the host's reaction to the proteolytic or protein degrading enzymes secreted by the fungus. In highly sensitized or hyperallergic individuals, this can be very pronounced. Epidermophyton flocosum infects the skin and nails but not the hairs, whereas different species of the genus Trichophyton display both geographical and anatomical variations. For example, Trichophacton rubrum is currently the most common dermatophyte of the humans. It infects skin and nails but almost never hairy parts of the body. Certain identification of each individual dermatophyte requires great skill, especially in the case of Microsporum, where there is considerable morphological similarity between the species. Hyphae are septate with numerous macroconidia, which are thick-walled and rough in most cases. Thank you very much guys for watching this session. This was session on the yeast and molds and here it completes. In the next lecture we will cover viruses with their detailed structure and functions. Thank you very much for watching this session.